out of the Bayview Hunters Point by Harbor Road. This is Budwyser, which is now known as Wyser, the first MC, first artist out of San Francisco, out of Bayview Hunters Point, to put out music. And I'm happy right now. I'm appreciative to have this interview and to be able to sit here and talk to this man about his journey and how he was one of the first to come out and do this whole music thing that we all love, that we all can't live without. So without further ado, this is my man Budwyser. Excuse me, Wyser.
No, it's all good, brother. People still see me today. Some of them call me Bud or BU.
Right.
B, so yeah, you know.
Okay.
But Wyser, yeah.
Right. So what gave you that name? How did you get that name?
Well, how I got Budwyser, to the people that don't know, my real name, of course, is Henry. And moving to Hunters Point, moving right there to Harbor Road, that was back then called Harbor Slopes. They had just remodeled everything because they used to be old Navy shipyard housings.
Okay.
And moving there and growing up there and being, new to the neighborhood, not knowing nobody, being pretty much a square because I was raised in church. I was preaching at 16.
Oh, okay.
Right. So, it was no way I would say Budwyser because I went nowhere near drinking or anything at 16. But as the culture just fell on me and I just got to meeting people and learning people and talking and hanging out, whatever, it was a radio show that came out called Battle of the Rappers on KML. The DJ Evan Luck, Rosary, Franzen. And I used to listen to that. And then all of a sudden I heard this guy named Millard. His name was Millard, but I always thought he'd say Millard. And he was dissing Hunters Point. Not really on the Battle of the Rappers, but he just was dissing Hunters Point, period, and
wow.
rapping. So I say, well, you call yourself Millard, I'm gonna call myself Budwyser.
Well, okay.
But I never knew the whole time his name was Millard. But I said, oh, you gonna call yourself Millard? Right. I'm gonna call myself Budwyser. I'm gonna be the king of the rappers, and I'm gonna represent Hunters Point, Harbor Road. So I started rapping. But see, what took me a little further was that I used that KML Battle of the Rappers platform and started going on there and battling people from all over the city using my name Budwyser. At the same time, dissing him and dissing Sunnydale back. So me and him, we got a street war going on, Budwyser against the Millard. But at the same time, I'm raising ranks being on the live radio.
Okay. Oh, so the Millard was from Sunnydale.
He was from Sunnydale.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So some early Hunters Point Sunnydale friction a little bit there.
Way early before the shooting. It was the Millard versus Budwyser.
Wow, that's dope.
And we battled before the real battles came later with the gunfight and fighting.
Right.
And we battled. And he would try to make the cassette tape and diss me, and I would make a cassette tape and diss him back. And that's back when you take the cassette and put the little paper in the thing.
Oh, yeah.
And stick it in, and you could record. And we have another video playing some instrumental or something.
Right.
And I would be dissing him, and that's how that went. But, little did he know, he just dissing me and me dissing him and the Battle of Rappers, that Budwyser just started getting heard everywhere. Budwyser, to where I overtook anybody even hearing about the Millard. And then Budwyser, in less than no time, became a household name.
Wow. That was dope. So where'd you come from? Where were your parents from?
Well, my parents is, my dad is from Florida. I mean, not Florida. My dad's from Georgia. And my mom's from Alabama. So
nice.
You would think I would be born in one of those two states, but eventually I was born in Florida.
Okay.
So, I moved out here to Fillmore. I moved to Fillmore, to Mike Allister, when I was 11 years old. And went to middle school and Roosevelt Middle School in Fillmore, off of Okwello, Gary. And then ended up graduating to Micatier High School in 82.
Okay.
And graduated to Micatier. And by that time, that's when I told you we moved to Hunters Point.
Right.
And you know, I moved. It was Harbor Slope, which later became Harbor Road.
Okay, so you say you grew up in the 70s.
Yeah, I was I was born in the 60s. In the 60s, so yeah, I'm a 70s baby.
Right. So
Yes,
how was life in the 70s?
I was a baby then. I was in Florida, so I don't really know so much. Down there, it's country. You know,
Right.
You know, we had a ball. You know, summer times we was kids. You know, it's the country. But by the time I got out here at 12 years old, I was in church. You know, I told you I got saved and became a Christian when I was a little boy. So I didn't know so much of the mischief part of being a kid. I missed that. I was at church. At 12 years old, I was studying my Bible. At 13, I was teaching Sunday school for the youth. At 14, I was preaching. You know, so 15, 16, I was preaching. So I didn't know much of the street life. Of course, I seen it on TV, but I never actually lived it until later when I became Budwyser.
Okay, dope. So you pretty much was growing up in the 80s too.
80s,
More
yeah.
the 80s. Okay.
I would say more the 80s than the 70s. I caught because you figure the late 70s, I'm only 11, 12 years old. So you figure when we get into the 80s is when I finally
teenage years and really
yes.
Right. But you was out teaching, preaching and
preaching.
Man, that's
I'm preaching and teaching. In Fillmore, I went to Pentecostal Temple Church of God in Christ, Bishop B.R. Stewart, and raised in church, man. Sung in the choir. That's where I met DeRace. I met DeRace Branner, and we became best friends. He played the drums, and I was in teaching Sunday school and preaching junior deacon, and that's where I met DeRace Branner.
Oh, dope. Okay, so how was growing up in the 80s? Like,
it was good as a kid, It wasn't no gangs or us killing each other. There might have been gangs, but not. I didn't experience it. Being in church, God had my back. So I really didn't go outside. I stayed in the house a lot until I moved to Harbor Road, and I went outside about 14, 15. I was going to McAteer, and that's when I befriended Black C.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Black C from RB Posse and Larry Jr., JJ, and Quindell, and a lot of the Harbor Road young cats. They were about 4 years younger than me, so I had a few years older than them. But they looked at me like a big brother. I had a good heart. Plus they can go places with me because places when their parents wouldn't let them go by themselves. Okay, well, you can go with
because you was always a cool cat. Yeah.
And then I had older guys like Dougie Fresh and Peanut and, CC and Hurl. They were older, 4 years older than me. Right. So I was caught in between both worlds. I can go and kind of chit-chat with them and learn the wisdom, Flop, Flop was their Nar Tiger. Okay. And, I can kind of go and learn the wisdom, Herm Lewis. Right. And learn a little wisdom from them, but at the same time, I can go take that wisdom to the younger cats.
Right.
So, I had the best of both worlds.
Oh, that's dope. Shoot. How, when drugs when the whole crack epidemic hit the city, hit Hunters Point, how did that affect you?
Well, when crack hit, we all know crack had hit probably around about the middle 80s when they used to take cocaine and mix it with ether and this and that. But when it finally became the Ready Rock or whatever, I still was young, but I had went to Job Corps. And when I came out of Job Corps, was in Job Corps with my best friend Dion Hawkins, James, Dave. We all was in Job Corps, Tex. And when I came out of Job Corps, and I don't want to say his name, but one of my homies was hustling.
Right.
And I'm seeing him with all this money. I'm still a square. Remember, I'm just 2-3 years from preaching. Yeah. And what stopped me and slowed me down from preaching was being in Job Corps. I'm not even Budwyser yet.
Right.
And I just seeing him having money. And I don't have no brothers, no dad or nothing. Like I want money.
Right.
So he put me on. And when he put me on, he showed me how to cut it up and sell this and do this, and you keep that and you make that and you recop with this, and right. I just, took a notion to it, and I just started hustling,
Yeah. Okay. And
not really thinking about the consequences, you know.
Right.
I'm young, but you know, even then God had me because He kept me out of prison, kept me from being killed, and you know, I give God all the credit.
Right. Yes, sir. And so, what made you like kind of shy away from that, or when did you shy away from hustling?
Well,
hustling.
Once after I kind of started hustling, you know, I took the Budwyser name. That I accepted Budwyser, and with the battle with the Miller and this and that, and a lot of people don't know this, but the Budwyser name was a household name way before I started rapping. Before anybody started rapping, Budwyser was a household name because I used to give house parties.
Right. Okay.
I give house parties, block parties, just under Budwyser. Okay. And people will come from West Point, Oakdale, Double Rock, 3rd Street, Kirkwood, LaSalle, you know, Hollister. They all would come flock on Harbor Road. To my house parties. Every Friday I would give them. You got 200 something boys and girls there. You know, the whole Harbor Road blocked off. And then I would give parties up at Sundown. I used the Budwyser name and ran with it. I still not rapping yet. Right. And I ran with it and would give parties up at the Sundown. I hadn't met TC yet, but it was my boy over in West Point, Shelton. Shelton had equipment, he had big speakers. And Shelton used to DJ, and we used to bring the big speakers up. And then once I met TC, then TC was the one that would come and start DJing. But we were set up and I was a household name before the first cassette.
Oh, that's a good segue into my next question.
Okay.
So when did you meet TC?
Okay, I met TC because when I started doing the Battle of Rappers, I said, man, yeah, I maybe kind of want to rap. There was no one that really influenced me because there was nobody in Hunters Point rapping. Right. So nobody in Hunters Point could influence me. It's just me just doing the Battle of the Rappers, period. But my cousin, Melvin, we call him Melly Mel, he's actually featured with me on a couple of my videos. I got videos that save $1 and a couple Family Affair. He's my cousin, him. He introduced me to a guy named Big Lokes.
Okay.
And Big Lokes had a little studio in his house.
Right.
And we go there, we try to record and do stuff, and he mess around with the keyboard, and he's like, you know, you pretty good, you okay. You know, if you really want to do this, I can hook you up with somebody. And so that's when Big Loke introduced me to TC.
Okay.
And TC was in Lakeview at the time.
All right.
And he introduced me to TC, and me and TC just clicked, and it's been 30 years, and
I was going to ask you that. What year was that, would you say?
30 years from now, so we figured, to be honest, I say about 90, because after the first CD dropped in 91.
Okay.
So around about 90, 89, 90, I met TC.
Okay. Oh, it dropped in 90. I thought it dropped in 80.
No,
89, I thought.
Well, that's when we started messing around, but the first actual, well, you know, I might have forgot myself, because I think the product dropped in 91. So, yeah, I'm getting old, bro. You know,
I know, that's what I'm saying.
I think the first CD it dropped in 90, because the product came a year after.
Okay.
So, Life as a Nigga was the first one.
Yeah.
With
very first one.
Darling Baby. That was a household name.
Yeah.
Blind to the Game. Blind Date.
Yeah.
You know, and that was the first one. Life as a Nigga and Darling Baby. It's the first featuring DeRace Brenner. Okay. And we took the picture actually by Chucky's grave. I don't know if you remember Chucky. You're kind of young, but Chucky was murdered. He was a huge loved one of the Harbor Road, Hunters Point, and he was huge, and he was murdered. And we took the picture by his grave, Chucky, and that's when that came. My Life as a Nigga, and everybody started flocking to it. And then, you know, but I had met TC at that time.
Right.
You know, I knew TC. TC did all of the music for Life as a Nigga. Everything was done at TC Studios.
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah.
That's dope.
When I met
Around
him,
90, right?
Yeah.
That's dope.
Probably 90. When I met TC, we got to work.
Wow.
And we did Life as a Nigga, and he also did everything else.
Yeah. How was the police back in that time? How was the community?
Well, the community was kind of crazy. You know, I didn't deal with a whole lot of people. I dealt with my boy Black C from RBL Posse. I only had a handful of guys that I dealt with. You know,
right.
And that's what pumped me to ask Black C, man, go get some equipment. You know, so we can. That's what kind of kept us out of so much trouble with the police. Was that I'm like, you know, we got to find another way around this.
Yeah,
know?
but I mean, like, the brutality was the same. They still was.
It wasn't
like
as bad as
innocent people and just overdoing it.
It was. I mean, that was mainly the riots in L.A. They just was trying to get us. They was knocks. You know, police was trying to swoop on us while we hustling. So when I told Black C, and it was me and Double B, and I said, listen, man, we went down on Mission Street, Black C, and he had money. Black C was a hustler. He hustled. I hustled, but, you know, he hustled too, you know. And at that time, he probably had a few more dollars than me. So I'm like, hey, you get the equipment,
right.
You know. And Black C, he said, okay, I'll be the. And Double B claimed that he was going to be the. He know how to do everything, but he really didn't. And Black C stayed in that house day and night, messing with that equipment. And we would go in there, and it was Baby Dre who did who's actually on my. Well, you got to cut it off, but he's actually on the product album cover. That's Baby Dre.
Okay.
That's King Hype now, I believe. Black C's Hype Man. But he was in the studio, and T-Lo was in the studio, and Double B stopped coming. He wasn't even there no more. And we was in there, and so that kind of kept us, back to your question, from getting in so much trouble. Because now we going to the studio, and it was in Black C house. I doubt he ever slept, man. He say, forget that. And what happened, and I think what pushed Black C to really get into it more is that, you know, he felt like, okay, I done got this equipment, and where's my rappers?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So wait a minute. And then, you know, I would start rapping. And he was real good. Black C was good. I mean, he had never rapped. But he started rapping, and he was the found out later, I'm good. And people started hearing him say, you good, you know?
Right.
So that kind of kept us out of trouble. And I would have continued with Black C, but I had already, remember, I knew TC, and I didn't want to introduce Black C to TC. So, you know, I just started, you know, hustling. You know, I didn't take it as serious as I should have. I would have been in a way bigger place now. I wish I had her, but I guess it wasn't God's will for my life. You know, to just really get deep into it, to be
the music, right?
To be the next Too Short or next E40.
Right.
It was Chris' destiny, RBL Posse, because you see where they blew up and where he's at now.
Right.
It was his destiny. It wasn't mine. Right. But even though I still rap now, it's my hobby. Right. But it was his destiny. My destiny is to do what God has me to do now, which is preach.
Well, you was big to all of us, man.
Yeah, man.
I mean, coming up, nowadays, and I want to give you your flowers too, because nowadays the young cats don't respect the older cats, and you know, they love people from a whole nother neighborhood, a whole nother coast,
exactly,
and they don't even want to kind of like support the OGs here, or
right.
You know, but us, you know, when we was coming up listening to y'all to me, y'all was as big as E40 and Too Short.
You know,
on that level, I didn't. You know, we would go. I would visit family in New Orleans.
It would
bring y'all tapes.
It would take RBL Posse. You don't take 11.5. Right.
Or Darling Baby.
Right.
You know, if you don't know what this is,
because you supported. What? You supported your own. Back then, when I dropped the product, You Can't Fade Me, and at the same time, Black C dropped Give Me No Bama Weed. Those two CDs, and then here comes 11.5. Here comes Cold War Hustlers. Dude, Hunters Point embraced those. The city of San Francisco embraced those, because even though I didn't go as further as them, I'm proud of Black C. I'm proud of RBL Posse for going outside the box.
Yeah.
Because it still opened up doors because I still did shows where they were at. And when 11-5 and Cornwall Hustles and DUI, and we already know Cougnut. We know Cougnut. He, IMP, Rick and all of them, Cellski. And when all of these people, Forte, you know, even one of the first rappers in Flymar, Hugh E MC. When all of these people, before, then later here comes Get Low with San Quinn and JT the Bigga Figga and all of them, the door was already open.
Yeah, it was.
You know.
And it was hot. And it wasn't, I feel like, as a fan of you, man, and just music and the culture and period, it wasn't even just, we didn't love y'all just to support y'all. It wasn't even a support part. It was that we loved y'all because that fool looked like me. I'm from here.
Exactly.
Like this is happening in my neighborhood. This is what's going down in my neighborhood.
My neighborhood is jumping. It ain't right. Yeah.
Right. I had cousins, family from like LA come up and say, "Oh man, is Frisco gay?" You know, I brought him to Harbor Road. He was like, "Man, we got to get out of here." Like, you know, back then it's like 100 people on the block. He like, "Man, we
got to go."
Like, you know what I'm saying?
People in New Orleans somewhere.
Right, exactly. And so, you know, just as a fan, I just want to let you know.
Well, I appreciate it, brother.
You know, it meant something to us. You know what I'm saying?
I appreciate it, man. And you're not the first to say that, you know.
Yeah.
And I really do appreciate it. And, you know, I take all love for love, you know.